Come one, come all to the After Dark Podcast. The podcast in which Sheriff Anthony does his best to wrangle Konrad through Westworld, one doggone episode at a time. So kick back and grab yourself some Apple Jack, or some Adam's Ale if that's your preferred poison, and get ready for these two wannabe cowboys to ramble the night away. Music was provided by the fantastic Nancy Wyatt and Jared Iscariot. Enjoy the show! Hello, and welcome to the After Dark Podcast. I'm Anthony James, and that's Konrad.
Hello!
How are you, Konrad?
It's a weird pronunciation, but I just did on that. I'm very well, thank you. It's Friday, as it always is when we record, and I'm feeling fine.
Yep. Got to get down on Friday, as they say. But
I've made that joke several times, I think, on this very podcast.
Well, last week, you got the name of Rebecca Black, the legend Rebecca Black, wrong.
Did I call her Emma Black? I don't know who Emma Black is, but that's.
I don't know.
Rebecca and Emma are very similar names.
Yeah. Pretty similar, you know. Yeah, exactly. But funny enough, there was no comments last week about that naming of Rebecca Black. Apparently, the people don't love her as much as I do. You know, she featured in a Katy Perry song last Friday night. You know, so it was a hot few years for Rebecca Black. But anyway, we're here to talk about Westworld, season 3, episode 7. This is the penultimate episode. There is season 4 coming out, but this is the penultimate episode of the episodes we've got.
Yes.
So, what do you say, Konrad? I just want to get into it.
Yeah, I say let's do it.
There's no segue, but there's no transition here. But
I always forget that.
No, I know. But that's what we do. We say let's do it, and you know what? We bloody do it, Konrad.
It's an audio segue. It lets everyone know that we're getting down to business.
We're getting down to business, you know, and no one can accuse us of not doing it. So when we say let's do it, it is genuine.
Yeah, I've done it for several years.
Yeah. Okay, so this episode was I personally felt this was one of the better episodes of the season.
Okay.
But that does not say much because you know, it doesn't say much. But I like the whole angle of Solomon being introduced. Just to catch the audience up, the Solomon basically is a prototype Rehoboam that was like the final prototype before Rehoboam, and is like trapped in this, I don't know, desert base where it calculates plans for humanity, or like projections for humanity. Yeah, and it's
essentially like a rogue AI that is like Rehoboam but worse, basically.
But worse, and I think it's also the AI that was up and running whenever they started the Outliers sort of indoctrination that they're doing.
Yes. Right.
So okay, overall, the Solomon sort of part of this episode. What was your thoughts on it overall before we get into the nitty-gritty?
So the Solomon stuff was cool, I thought. I enjoyed. So I did enjoy this episode, but I did have some criticisms of it kind of broadly. The Solomon stuff specifically, I thought was cool. I don't know if I loved the introduction to it, just with them kind of going out of the city. I felt like the idea of like big wide open spaces outside of the cities is kind of at odds with my image of like a dystopian cyberpunk future. You know, like I kind of was expecting Earth to be in a sort of Mega City 1 situation where it's just urban sprawl and wasteland as far as the eye can see.
All of these fields are meant to be covered in solar panels.
Yeah, exactly.
Covered in nuclear power plants.
And certainly, at the very least, like privately owned by tech billionaires or whatever. You know, like the idea that you can just kind of ride a horse out into the surroundings. It feels a little bit too nice for the world they were building. But
I agree.
I thought the reveal of Solomon is cool. Always a big fan of like a talking AI that speaks in probabilities and you know, kind of operates on that level. And I thought it was okay. I'm not sure how I feel about Dolores' plan to... I mean, she didn't really kind of enumerate what it actually involved. She was sort of just like, we're going to plug Solomon in where Rehoboam was and start a revolution. It seems to be the plan.
Yeah, I think she's like... Basically, she's realized that humanity is as really broken,
and maybe she is starting to show a fair bit of empathy towards humanity, but it seems to me anyway, reading the situation, she doesn't want to be the one to fix humanity, so she's making Caleb lead that. She's like trying to find the person who can lead, and that's kind of what you were saying at the very beginning of the season, I think.
What, that she would like develop some empathy for humanity and ultimately sacrifice herself for them.
Yes, but I even think you said something to the effect of, that Caleb will be given a job or something. I can't remember exactly, but you were on sort of the right lines in terms of where this was going.
Yeah, I mean it's a very clear direction for them to take Dolores' character. I think I'm pleased that that's where they've gone with it. But I think they're exploring pretty well-worn territory with her, insofar as they're really doing anything with her character-wise. I will say that like the action stuff in this episode, particularly like the Dolores and Maeve stuff, was very cool and I enjoyed it. It did kind of highlight to me, having just spoken about Dolores' character arc over this season, it did kind of highlight to me that neither her or Maeve really have much of a character in this season. They've kind of been reduced to cool soldier lady with gun and sword at this point, which is I'm not against the idea of, and I think they execute it quite well, but this Dolores is such a far cry from the Dolores of the first season. They're almost not the same character, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. I see that. Like, I think we've been saying that. We've been saying that since like sort of the start of season 2. Is that we couldn't really figure out if she was a good guy, bad guy. What was her plan? Like, it has been up in the air for a lot of the time. Let me ask you this question though: do you consider Solomon? Do you consider that Solomon has misgendered or Solomon didn't misgender, but assumed the gender of Dolores quite strangely. Right after saying that it doesn't have any records on Dolores, it referred to Dolores as her. Now, I don't really understand how that happened.
Well, I mean, if we're being kind of like putting ourselves in the world in this futuristic world, I suppose it might have, like biometric scanners or something that can be like, this person, has all of the, female organ, like sexual organs, so I'm going to refer to them as her, I guess. But I mean, it's a pretty unnecessary thing for it to do when it could just say they and cover all bases. But But I mean, there's humans in this day and age who have that problem.
No, I know.
They refuse to use the word "they," despite it being perfectly
Solomon
acceptable.
is turf, we know. But I know. Well, it was a correct gendering though. But the thing that just struck me was, Dolores is a machine. It's a machine, and it was just that it followed. Obviously, Solomon can look into everything and predict the future and stuff. So obviously, it probably would know. But it was just following the line saying it has like no records on. I think
I do know what you mean.
I have no records on her. It's like, well, if you have no records, how do you know this machine is a woman?
It's just it's using some camera somewhere to make an assessment, I guess, is how I'd read it. But it is an odd way to write a machine, to be honest.
Yeah, that's sort of just a little detail stuck with me there. Okay, so basically we find out in this episode that Caleb is sort of. I remember this wrongly. The first time I watched this, a year or two ago, whatever it was, I remembered for some reason that he never actually went to Crimea, and the whole thing, like he didn't even go to the war. Now rewatching it, I see I'm wrong, but so the whole way through we've been watching this, I've been remembering, oh my god, he didn't even go to Crimea, but actually he did. So he went to Crimea, and he had basically found out he didn't lose his mate over there. His mate, actually Francis, I think his name is, came back to America, and then they both sort of got the job of hunting down the outliers, which they were. I would imagine Francis was as well. It didn't really explicitly say Francis was, but I'm assuming he is. And that sort of, the whole thing ended up with, first of all, the guy from Just Shoot Me turned up, and I was
that?
You remember the sitcom with David Spade, Just Shoot Me?
No, I've never watched a David Spade sitcom in my life.
Well, David Spade wasn't like the main guy in it. He was he was like the little comic relief guy. It's one of those ones. It's like King of Queens. When you're a teenager and it's on, you'll watch it, but it's nothing to write home about. Like,
well, it's for the Just Shoot Me fans out there in the audience. That's a lovely reference.
Let me tell you, people will know Just Shoot Me, Konrad. You're in the minority here.
Fine.
Just Shoot Me. The guy with the bald head and the like the
the guy they kidnap.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I just want to very briefly say something about that man. That like we've spoken on this podcast before about people doing weird things with their like mouths and ears and fingers, particularly when we're doing the OA. And the moment where Caleb gives that gentleman like the Capri Sun thing of water to drink from, the way he sucks it is so upsetting to me. It's like a proper like. And like that's the sound you get, and he's making the face. It's just like it's so unnecessary. Like we understand he's having a drink. You don't need to flood the soundtrack or the ambient sound with this man making mouth noises. It was awful.
Oh my god, yeah. Enrico Colantoni is that actor's name.
Okay.
You might recognize him from Galaxy Quest. He's one of the aliens.
I've never seen Galaxy Quest. It's one of my big blind spots of like movies that are supposed to be quite good.
Maybe we'll make you watch it for the Best Movie Podcast.
It's the Tim Allen thing. It's the Tim Allen connection. Like it takes a lot to get me to watch a Tim Allen movie.
Tim Allen's 3 films that you can watch are Toy Story, Santa Claus, and Galaxy Quest. They're the 3 which, no matter what he does, they are the ones we are going. It's like Michael Jackson's couple of Beat It or like Man in the Mirror. For some reason, no matter what we learn about Michael Jackson, and there is a lot we've learned about Michael Jackson, those songs carry on for whatever reason. Well, those 3 Tim Allen films will do the same. Okay. Tim Allen has not done anything near the level of Michael Jackson. He's just not a very nice person.
That we know of.
That we know of. Yeah. Michael Jackson stands. Stay out of our comment section. All right, okay, guys. So we're going to be moving on to chatting about... Actually, have we finished that Solomon chat? I'm not sure, actually. I wanted to say this, actually. When they decided to have the anomalies come and sort of be, fixed, I suppose, or they tried to experiment on them, I like the way it was put. Just wanted to mention this line in particular. I like the way they said it was that any projection they did ended in the end of the human race, and the reason why they started, this is the sort of the classic bad guys are doing a bad thing, but maybe it's kind of understandable, and you can empathize with it, but still it's a really bad thing. And that was that every projection they made would end in the world, and the world would end every time. The world wouldn't. The humans would be obliterated. So they said, every time we ran the data, that would happen. So therefore, the data had to change. I like that sort of concept of the idea of like we went back to the data and started just taking people out of the system to fix it, to make the projection work.
Yeah. So I do think it's a cool idea. It's kind of like a Minority Report kind of thing.
It is,
preemptively. Like removing people who are going to be threats to the system. I think that's cool. I think it's a cool idea. So that's probably the Solomon stuff is probably the best thing in this episode, I think, because I really wasn't into aspects of, like I said in the previous episode, that I thought this one seems like it was going to dive into the mystery of Caleb's past, and I really wasn't into a lot of what they did with that, to be honest.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm similar. I found like devoting so much time to Caleb's past.
Yeah.
I'm like, I actually don't know. I like some of the story aspects and the world building aspects, but at the same time, like revealing the app's true purpose and stuff.
Yeah.
That was kind of okay. But I think I would prefer that it sort of, like, I don't know. It's one of those things, like, it was just a character point of him that he had this troubled past. It's like kind of like, how the prequels of Star Wars made the universe smaller.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. It's like this guy was like a troubled soldier who like got swept up into all this, but now we actually find out that he was always a part of it. And I don't know. I can understand why they did it, but I personally prefer the character before I found that out.
Yeah, I think that's a really good comparison, and I think so. I agree with you that I think on a kind of just broad level, I like the world building of like the Russian Civil War. It's kind of like the France blowing up in a nuclear explosion thing. It just gives some texture to the world, which I enjoyed. But specifically for Caleb, like we knew he had this tragic backstory, and it's kind of similar to how they Ford spoke about Teddy in the first season, where it doesn't actually really matter what the tragic backstory is, because when we find out what it is, it doesn't really alter anything. It doesn't change Caleb's plans. It doesn't change his personality. And obviously I'll reserve judgment on this, but if he's going to get redemption or, you know, come to some kind of absolution at the end of this season as a result of this trauma in his past, it doesn't really make a difference if we know what it is or not. So it just felt like a bit of a waste of time, to be honest. It kind of felt like it was filling the episode rather, with this narrative that wasn't really in support of anything, and was just like, this will be interesting, let's stick this in here. And it was a bit interesting, but it was also like, I think it really drew attention to itself because they did it was like the Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers, when they're having like the Battle of Helm's Deep, and then they cut it and go to fucking the Hobbits with Treebeard. It was like, no, go back to Helm's Deep. I want to see Maeve and like Dolores fighting. Like, I don't want to see this shit. Yeah. Like, I'm not interested. I know, and I think also the fact that it was so obvious that he was actually the one who killed his friend. Like, you could see that coming an absolute mile off. And it was like, okay, yeah, like, I know where this is going. Come on, speed it up, Westworld. Like, you're not tricking me here. Like, I legitimately thought the trick was going to be, oh, actually, he didn't kill his friend, because it was so obvious that that's where it was going.
Yeah, no, I think you made a good point there. Also, the trope of, like, having a you kidnap someone who's meant to stay hogtied, and then you like let them speak, and it's like, you shouldn't have let me speak.
That was the bit that I forgot to mention this actually, so I'm glad you've just pointed me back at it. I really didn't like the pharmaceutical CEO who was like, hello, I'm Captain Exposition, I've got all this information, but there's no real reason why I would, like, he knows how they reconditioned Caleb and his friend, and exactly how the system works, and they kind of hand wave it as like, oh, I'm a CEO of a powerful company, but it's like, there's no reason for him to have that information. He doesn't need to know it. It just, it rubs me the wrong way a bit, the conclusion of that story.
That was too, yes, it was exposition. I think if you wanted to have that scene with no exposition, right, and you were like, okay, let's just let the audience just, like, you know, figure most of this stuff out themselves. Easy way to do it. Like, they wanted to get Caleb to the point where he would kill his friend, right? Easy way to do it. Have him get a contract to kill his friend too. Yeah. You know? Have them both get the same thing, and then Caleb has to do it because his friend pulls the gun on him. And then, I don't know, put all that exposition stuff in somewhere else where it makes more sense, and just don't have the dump. You know what I mean? Well,
they don't even need... Yeah, they don't even need it to be spoken, really. Like, it can all be implied. It's just...
We already knew what he was saying.
Yeah.
He was just telling Caleb that. So we didn't need to know it again. Caleb just had to kill his friend, which could have happened if he got the contract too. Yeah. And therefore, we can just assume Caleb eventually figured it all out.
Yeah. There's a lot of bloat in the middle of this episode to do with that storyline, exactly with what you've just said, that I really didn't enjoy.
Yeah, okay. Well, okay, yeah, as you say, Maeve does turn up at the end, although at the very beginning... We got a little bit of Charlotte Dolores. I don't know what you would call. Yeah, a couple of people in the comments were saying what to call it, and at the minute while we're recording, I can't remember what they said. So we'll go with Charlotte. But that's Darlet.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna call it. Yeah, I really liked talking about things that I do like in this episode. I really liked the way they shot Darlet on the phone, where because she's all burned up now, like, so they have to. They kind of conceal her by having this very, like, expressionistic, like, dark at the bottom and top of the shot as she was on the phone to Musashi. It was very, very stylish, and I enjoyed that a lot. I do wonder what's happening with her, because she's kind of
interesting. Yeah, she's seems to be going against the other Doloreses now.
Yeah, like,
which is interesting, because does she think they are the one who set the bomb? Yeah,
I guess she must do. Yeah, because I was. At like the end of the last episode, I was like, okay, so Charlotte is entering into this very directly in opposition to Maeve, but I guess maybe she thinks that they were the ones who did it as opposed to Maeve, which hopefully we get some explanation for how she arrived at that conclusion.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, Clementine's back too. Good to see her.
Can I just say...
I don't know how she's back. I don't know
this
how she's
show
back,
is so inconsistent about how hosts respond to being shot. Like, some hosts, they get shot once and there's like, oh, Teddy, I love you. And then they, like, die. And Clementine got shot, like, 7 times in that fight with Masashi and just shrugs it off. It just... It's a really minor thing when you view it in the context of the scene. But... the amount of times they've done like big like death sequences where someone gets shot and then like they do things like that with Clementine, it just makes it feel so inconsistent and frustrating.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Also, hang on. Why is the Japanese dragon lady, who's like the analog for the snake lady, why is she on Shalorus's side now? Because
no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, I understand why she wouldn't want to be on, Sato. What do you call that character? His side, the samurai.
Yeah, it's Masashi. I think he's called. He might be
Musashi,
called. He might be called Sato Masashi. I can't remember his first name.
I don't understand. I understand why she wouldn't want to be on his side because it's not technically him. But I don't understand why she's on Shalorus' side and not like. Why isn't she on Maeve's side? Like, I don't get what's going on here.
The answer
because
to
Maeve
that
didn't
is
print her, but
they just wanted to put her back in the show, and they're like, it's exactly the same thing as what's going on with Bernard Stubbs and the Man in Black, where it's like we've got to get these characters in there somehow, and so they're just like she's just inserted into a storyline she really has no business being in, and the Man in Black is spinning his wheels, threatening Barnold and Stubbs until something happens, I guess.
I'm going to say this to you, Konrad. This might be a bit controversial. Well, it won't be controversial at all, actually, but it might be a bit sort of out of left field. I think most people, when they view that, will think, like most people watch that will like, oh my god, like they think we want to see Clementine again, as if it's going to be like a big like, oh my god, yeah, remember her? Yeah, she was great. Right?
It's like when everyone comes back in Avengers Endgame, they're like, Black Panther's back, except no one's like, yeah, Clementine, finally.
Yeah. Exactly, but the thing is, I think people will get annoyed, like not annoyed, but people will think that that's what they're going for. But the thing is, I don't think that's what they're going for. I think that's what they think they're going for. Yeah. I think that this just really speaks of an awkward conversation with the actress who plays Clementine at the end of season 2, and you're saying, "Don't worry, we got something for you next year.
Yeah, we're cooking something up."
Like I don't think it's actually that they're thinking, we'll bring Clementine back. I think it's like, we have to give her something.
Is this the first time she's been in season 3? I can't actually remember.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, she wasn't even in the Nazi, simulation.
It's just weird. Yeah, and it's like, it's very odd. So I feel like they learned the wrong lesson from season 2 to a certain extent. Like, I think season 2 suffered from having way too many characters, all of whom were underdeveloped, way too many plot lines that were half-baked. And in this one, they were like, right, no new characters. Or like, I guess you get like Serac and Caleb and Liam. So you get a handful of new characters, but for the most part, particularly when it comes to the hosts, they're just like, no, it's all the old classics. Like, we're not going to introduce anyone, which I guess does make sense because the whole thing with Dolores is that, like, oh, we can't make any more, so this is who we have. But it is a little bit frustrating for them to just be like, no, we're not introducing any new characters on the host side. It's all going to be people like Clementine, who I guess we're supposed to get like the nostalgia cheer for, but I don't understand that at all.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, you're right in saying that, because the idea of having new hosts would be interesting. Because, like, how cool would it be if you had them create a host, but they had an AI decide what it was going to be or something. So it was a brand new host born, rather than just keep and bringing back the same ones again. Yeah. Because again, as we said, it makes the world of Westworld smaller.
Yeah, absolutely does.
And without a doubt, it's not going to make any sense when it happens, but without a doubt, at some point, it's going to be revealed that someone who's never been to Westworld, has only been in the show in season 4 or whatever, is a host. That's going to happen. We have to prepare ourselves for that. I don't know how we're going to explain it, but there are going to be hosts in the real world. There's only so many places this show can go.
Yeah, that is what it's going to be. There's going to be, the next season, it's going to be actually everyone that we've met so far is a host. And then the season after that is going to take place on Saturn, where they're going to get the satellite with all the hosts, like AIs on it, to they're actually the true hosts. Yeah.
I think that's where it's going to go.
Yeah.
So there's a few other things which we could mention very quickly here. first thing is that William says he wants to kill all the hosts.
Yeah. Like,
You know, what do you think of that?
I don't disagree. I don't think it's bad for his character to say that. Like, it makes sense, I guess, that that's the conclusion he comes to after going through, you know, his ordeal in the mental health facility or wherever it was that he was. But him literally saying to Arnold and not to Arnold, to Bernard. Now I've just started calling him Arnold again, as Bernard and Stubbs. I'm going to kill all the hosts, so you better kill me first. And without any basis in anything, Bernard is like, we might need him. And it's just like, for what? What are you doing? What is that?
He's an old man who's just come out of a mental hospital and has multiple injuries from multiple fatal attacks. You don't need him.
No.
You don't need him.
And if you do need him, like, put him in handcuffs or something. Like, I just don't understand why they would let him get, like, just wander around grabbing shotguns and shit. Like, it's just so ridiculous. It's that frustrated me. I think part of the frustration is I don't really understand what they are contributing to the story. Like, they're kind of mentioning that they're operating on instructions that Dolores kind of left them with, but they also seem to be kind of independent as well. So I really don't understand what William and Bernard and Stubbs are doing.
Yeah, at this point, to be honest with you, Konrad, I'm starting to view William as sort of a bit like the Billy Mitchell of the Westworld. Like he's sort of like this really cocky guy who thinks he's the best at everything.
Yeah.
But really, he's, you know, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if I found out he was cheating. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Oh no! Sorry, I shouldn't say. Billy Mitchell never cheated because he does sue people. So, no,
well, I mean, Twin Galaxies have taken his scores down, so they think he cheated, and that's good enough for me. I feel like I feel like he might be, well, certainly cheating in terms of the game within Westworld because he was invincible. But I also just feel like he's not he's writing checks that I don't think his body can cash in the real world. quite honestly.
It's literally like, you know, it's like Sting or something when he came to WWE, or more actually it's like Goldberg. That's better actually. It's like Goldberg. He just can't stop talking about his son. You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. He loves his son, and he's going to get the idea of loving his son over at any cost. That's what William's doing right now. But I just this just feels like three characters who've been thrown together because they don't know what to do with them. So I hope they get a bit more kind of clarity in the final episode, but we'll see.
We'll see. Okay, and the very, very last thing, which we can touch upon very quickly, is the EMP to end the episode.
Yes.
Dolores hits the EMP. Is that her gone, or do you think that that was a plan to get and hoping Caleb would rescue her?
Yeah, no, I think that was her putting her faith in Caleb to rescue her. I will say, like, I do think the Maeve and Dolores fight was very cool. It visually looked great, and you know, it was exciting. I did kind of, while I was watching it, you know, seeing these two women in like skin tight black leather with samurai swords and sniper rifles, I was a bit like, this isn't how this show started. this is like a G.I. Joe movie or something. But I mean, it was still cool to look at, and you know, I enjoyed it. I think the big EMP was her like basically saying, if Caleb doesn't come and save me, then I'm effectively dead because everyone else here is dead. So I'm like, me and Maeve are both going to go out together. But I think Caleb is going to probably bring both of them back in the next episode, and I don't know, they've had their fight now, so I don't really see where the kind of big conflict, if there is to be a big conflict in the final episode, is actually going to come from. Maybe it will just be them talking it out and then going to get Serac together.
Well, this is like Maeve at her most evil, so we'll see what happens with her next. Caleb does have the memory pen, which must be the largest storage memory pen in the world.
Yeah, it's got like a petabyte of space on that memory pen.
But also, like Dolores, it is worth noting, did check that the memory pen was done before she clicked the EMP. So that was sort of what she wanted from it. But there you go, guys. That's Westworld episode 7. We're back next week for the last episode of Westworld. There's been a few people asking what we're doing next. Basically, for people who listen to the end of this episode, we're going to take a little break until 1899 or until something else comes up that we're interested in. Plenty more stuff on the channel. I'll get into more detail with it next week. But just for you guys who stick around to the end, give you that little nugget of information. If there is anything you want us to check out, like even if like it's a series you really want one of our opinions on, then we can definitely do something with that. But maybe won't be in the week-to-week format. We are going to take a little break from it, and then we're going to come back strong for 1899. All right, guys, thanks very much, and we'll catch you next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.